Woo! Hey, good morning. It's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. You can find me on YouTube, Rumble, Facebook. I will be there, and you can subscribe to my YouTube channel. We've got so much to get to today, and we're going to be talking a lot about Hurricane Helene. You know, it just disgusts me. You see Kamala Harris get out there and say, oh, we're going to be giving like $750 to households. And it just bothers me because that's what they did in Maui as well. And when you look at the spending overseas to Ukraine, $152 billion, we're subsidizing their small businesses. We are paying the salaries of all the first responders there. We are paying farmers in Ukraine. I mean, essentially, Ukraine is the 51st state. We remember in Maui that fire, which was the government's fault, by the way. They came out and they said, okay, $700 per household. When you break it down, when you look at the numbers, $152 billion over to Ukraine, $2,500 per citizen. Okay, $2,500 per citizen. You're not getting anything from FEMA. FEMA, their response there is just... We're going to be chatting a lot about that, but I also want to get to the highlights of the JD Vance win over Tim Walz and the moderators. We can't forget that JD Vance was going up against the moderators as well as Tim Walz. And I want to talk about what Trump should do next after this vice presidential debate. He is going to be they're going to try to coax him out, and they're going to try to get him in front of the media. And they're going to try to do some gotchas. And I think what Trump needs to do is just get out the vote, continue doing his rallies. And, I think that is, they're going to try to coax him into another debate. And Trump's ego, they're going to try to chip away at Trump's ego with this whole, JD Vance is awesome. JD Vance is so much better than Donald Trump. You heard it from the CNN contributors or journalismers. I don't want to call them reporters. You heard it from the leftist media that JD Vance, I wish that JD Vance was the candidate, right? They're going to try to chip away at Trump's ego, try to get him to do another debate. And that's just going to be unfair. It's going to be a debate where it's the moderators against Donald Trump. It's going to be a debate where they give Kamala Harris the questions ahead of time. We know that ABC, a producer, said that Kamala Harris, in a sworn affidavit, they gave Kamala Harris those questions ahead of time, and they told Kamala Harris that she would not be fact-checked in real time, and that Donald Trump would be. So that's not a debate. That's people ganging up on Trump and making him look bad. So what should Trump do next? Just go to the rallies, get out the vote, get as many votes as you possibly can. Next, I want to talk about this resurfaced video. Exposed Tim Walz. He was actually bragging about destroying all of these small towns with these illegal immigrants, migrants. He was bragging about it. So this resurfaced, it's a video and it's been resurfaced. And it's very damning. So we're going to get to Tim Walz here bragging about destroying your community with migrants. I also want to talk about this helicopter pilot. This is going to be the story of the day. This helicopter pilot, he was threatened with arrest. He was flying into North Carolina, saving hurricane victims, and the government, apparently that's a big no-no. The government does not want you helping people. Okay, which I don't understand why, except I chalk it up to the government hates you, and I don't think I need to provide another reason. But this guy was threatened with arrest after he was flying into North Carolina trying to save the hurricane victims. So we're going to get to all of that, but I do want to get to this piece, NPR. You guys know I used to work for NPR back in college. And this is the kind of stuff that they put out. NPR, they're highly government. I mean, they say that, we're listener funded. Really what it is, it's government funding. It's public. Okay, so it's funded by tax dollars. Okay, so that's a big thing to keep in mind as I provide you this story this morning. According to NPR, toxic masculinity and beef are changing the direction of the wind, right? So climate change, toxic masculinity, and beef are the big contributors to climate change. Okay. This is such serious journalism, I tell you. Climate science is really just political science. You and I both know that. So it only makes sense that the left and this public media would go out there and try to make food, beef, controversial. Okay, so according to the Post-Millennial, National Public Radio knows who's driving climate change as an existential threat. Okay, who is driving the climate change? Who's at the helm of climate change? It's men who eat meat. And they did such hard-hitting journalism here that they actually found the origins of this current crisis where men are contributing to the climate change because they're eating meat. They found the origins. It was a 2006 television ad for Burger King. Yes. So it was an ad that heralded the fast food chain and its appetite-satisfying Whopper as a source of masculine culinary delight. So the Whopper is a masculine culinary delight, and they talk about how, it's totally unlike, in this commercial, it's unlike the vegetarian food offered by places where women like to frequent. So it was a Burger King ad, and it was funny, it was good in 2006, where they were targeting men and trying to get men to eat Whoppers. Okay. Apparently that's the origins of climate change and where this existential threat started. So the ad began running when this guy, I don't know who this is. You might know who he is. I guess he's a Division I basketball player, Malcolm Regisford. Okay. So he was interviewed for the NPR story. Okay. So that ad began running when he was 10 years old. This guy that they interviewed. Malcolm saw this commercial often between his cartoons when he was 10. And then he said this in the interview with NPR. Malcolm said, quote, beef is marketed to men, steaks and hefty burgers. Like, that's what a man is supposed to eat. Yeah, we're all supposed to eat meat. Okay, it's a source of protein. So Malcolm, he said that he kept hearing these messages all throughout middle school, high school, and into college. And then in college, he played Division I basketball. And he said, quote, it's thought that animal products yield a certain sense of strength. Or it's the thought. So everybody thinks that animal products, because of these commercials, yield a certain sense of strength. He told the taxpayer-funded media outlet. That's what he said. He goes, some form of masculinity. Okay, animal products yield some certain sense of strength, some masculine tendencies you get from eating meat. Look, this is not a matter of opinion. I want to be very clear. This is not a matter of opinion. You can build muscle. You can't. You seriously can't build muscle without protein. It's like scientifically proven that you need protein to build muscle. Men like muscles. Okay, I don't know what to tell you. You have a much easier time getting your protein in with meat. Additionally, plants have anti-nutrients in them. That means that, like, if you eat beans, there's compounds in that which can affect the absorption of nutrients. Okay, so there's compounds in vegetables that can actually slow down the process of building a protein, building up the proteins in your body. So I'm not going to get too far into the weeds here. Point is, you need meat. Okay, you need protein, and you have a much easier time building protein, building muscle with animal products. I mean, that's just a matter of fact. Okay, so it's not like a sense of strength that you get from eating animal products. You actually gain strength from eating animal products. Like, this isn't even like, I don't understand this guy. So, not to mention, I hate when people talk about this because they don't really understand the effects of what that means when we take meat out of the food supply. So there's also no way mass agriculture is better for the environment. Okay, so if we take meat out of our diets completely, we are going to be forced to do what's called mass agriculture, because there's going to be a high demand, because meat satisfies you. Okay, with vegetables, you have to eat a lot of them in order to satisfy you. With crops, you would have to participate in what's called monocropping. Who's my farmers out there? Find me on YouTube, give this video like a smash that like button, or text me 309-451-9299. Monocropping is totally destructive for ecosystems. Okay, it depletes the soil, and cows actually do the exact opposite. There's nothing better than pasture-raised, grass-fed cows. Okay, that is really great for the environment. These people lie. Mass agriculture would be detrimental to our ecosystems, because we would be forced into monocropping. So monocropping is where you plant the same crop in the same field in the same pasture multiple times. And with the demand, you would wind up having to monocrop. There would be no other option for you, because there would be such a high demand for vegetables if you get rid of the meat, and we're just going to have to create all of these crop fields, and we would have no fields for cows, and there would be no need for them if we got rid of meat. So NPR found others to confirm that eating beef is a man thing to do. And even the statistics prove it. Gosh, this can't be serious journalism. Why are they doing this? So NPR found others to confirm that eating beef is a man thing to do. And even the statistics prove it, according to Diego Rose, who is a nutrition program director at Tulane University. So some sort of director of nutrition at some college somewhere. He says, quote, "Whenever we've looked at the question of gender, we've seen that men eat greater amounts of beef than women." Here's a crazy thought. I don't think I need a nutrition director to tell me why that is. It's because men eat more in general. Okay, they need more calories. This is just basic diet facts. Okay, they need more calories in order to sustain themselves, so they eat more. Of course, they eat more beef. They eat more. What? This is the hard-hitting journalism, folks. So the mainstream media is laughable. This is hilarious. And that might be fine, but according to NPR, all beef eating is promoting climate change. Okay, so the crux of the story here is that beef eating is bad, and it's promoting climate change. And the scientists say that beef is worse than any other food when it comes to global warming. Cattle requires grazing land that must be cleared of all its trees. So they're saying that grazing for the cows, if the cows want to graze, then they're going to have to chop down trees, which contributes to climate change. Oh, my brain hurts. And of course, cows, the flatulating argument where they say, oh, cows are constantly farting, and that produces these powerful greenhouse gas emissions that produce climate change. Give me a break. And you know what these climate change alarmists and NPR don't understand is that with the trees, and you cut down all the trees for the grazing land for the cows, you have to do the same thing for plants. Okay, how many cornfields do you see that have random trees in them? None. So you'd have to cut down the trees for vegetables as well, for soybeans. And these climate change alarmists, they'll tell you that they blame humans for breathing, because that releases CO2 and emissions and greenhouse gases. Okay, so just imagine how much land you would have to obtain and require for the masses to live off plants alone. That would be a climate disaster. It would be a disaster, because meat satisfies the human much faster than, vegetables. You would need a lot of vegetables in order to satisfy or reach your caloric intake for the day. Meat gets you there very quickly. And we would have to wipe out all of the trees in order to sustain a diet of just vegetables. I'm sorry. I know people are going to be like, "Kat, why are you so mean to the vegetarians?" Look, I mean, this is silly. This is silly. When you look at the nutritional content of meat, you will get protein, the protein you need to be strong, faster. I mean, that's just facts. All right, I do have to take a quick break, but you're listening to Cities 92.9. When I come back, we're going to walk you through some of the key moments of the JD Vance versus Tim Walz debate. I've been looking forward to this vice presidential debate for a long time. I was looking forward to it when I thought JD Vance would be debating Kamala Harris. And then they switched it all up. They switched to Tim Walz. And after they switched to Tim Walz, my expectations were even higher. I was like, oh, JD Vance is really going to, and he met my expectations. He wiped the floor with Tim Walz. So it was a very one-sided fight. And I think that this vice presidential debate is going to go down in history as the only, the one time a vice presidential debate changed the course of an election. And I've got 3 key moments from that debate for you next. Stay tuned. It's Conservative Cat.
more talk, and you get to choose how much data you actually want. Just dial pound 250, say the keyword save now, and if you do it.
Woohoo! Hey, good morning. It's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. Smash that like button on the YouTube channel and subscribe. That really helps us out, folks. I want to get to these 3 key moments of the vice presidential debate. I mean, if you've ever tuned in to Conservative Cat prior to today, you would know that I was really looking forward to this vice presidential debate, even back when I thought it was going to be JD Vance versus Kamala Harris, but then they switched over to Tim Walz, and my expectations got even higher. I was like, all right, JD, you got to deliver. And that night, it was such a one-sided fight. Am I right? This might go down as the one time the vice presidential debate changed the course of an election. I think it's that consequential. And here are some key facts, key moments, highlights from the debate. First came the baloney fact check that really wasn't a fact check at all. JD Vance was right about the Haitians and the Harris-Biden immigration policies, and the moderators were running cover for Tim Walz because he was sucking. And Vance was prepared for it, though. Vance was prepared, and they had to cut off his microphone to prevent him from being right. Okay, he fact-checked the fact-checkers. Don't take my word for it. Actually, take Chris Cuomo's word for it. And I know the left is listening. You used to love Chris Cuomo. Chris Cuomo said that JD Vance was right. Take a listen.
When they were talking, at one point, Vance wanted to correct something about how Haitians got into this country. And he was right, and the moderators wouldn't let him correct it. It's very interesting. Now, to the control room, Paige, do you want to play some sound right now, or do you want to go to Geraldo? Good. Here's a little taste of what happened tonight in the national conversation. That's Geraldo.
Margaret, but
thank you, Senator. We have so much to get to.
Margaret, I think it's important
we're
because
to turn out of the economy. Thank
Margaret,
you.
the rules were that
The
you guys
economy,
weren't going to fact check, and since you're fact checking me, I think it's important to say what's actually going on. That is the facilitation of illegal immigration, Margaret, by our own
Thank you, Senator, for
leadership.
describing the legal process. We have so much to get to, Senator.
Those laws have been on the books since 1990.
Thank you, gentlemen.
The
We want to have
app has not been on the books since 1990. It's something that Kamala Harris created, Margaret.
Gentlemen, the audience can't hear you because your mics are cut.
Well, there you have it. And look, Vance was right. Okay? There's nuance to it. But the bigger problem is why he was moved on. We've got so much to get to. This says who? You know what I mean? Like, what is the schedule here? So you have a list of topics. That's not what it's about. It's about how the American people can access these two men and the two theories and the narratives. And you got to let them have their speak, because now you created a story where you're the problem, which.
All right. Chris Cuomo saying that JD Vance was right there. He fact-checked the fact-checkers. You know, you would think after the pandemic, here's another key point. You would think after the pandemic, Democrats would be smart enough to not go the whole experts route. You guys remember, the experts, listen to the experts. Well, it turns out all the experts were wrong, but not Walz. Apparently he didn't get the memo. Hey, Timmy, we're tampon time. We're actually not going to go that, trust the experts route. It really didn't go well for us the last time. So don't say trust the experts. His response to the economy is that you need to shut up and you need to trust the experts who agree with him and his boss, Kamala. So Vance had some things to say about those experts. Take a listen. Here we go.
Governor, you say trust the experts, but those same experts for 40 years said that if we shipped our manufacturing base off to China, we'd get cheaper goods. They lied about that. They said if we shipped our industrial base off to other countries, to Mexico and elsewhere, it would make the middle class stronger. They were wrong about that. They were wrong about the idea that if we made America less self-reliant, less productive in our own nation, that it would somehow make us better off, and they were wrong about it. And for the first time in a generation, Donald Trump had the wisdom and the courage to say to that bipartisan consensus, we're not doing it anymore. We're bringing American manufacturing back. We're unleashing American energy. We're going to make more of our own stuff. Governor, you say trust.
I love it. So that was another key point of the vice presidential debate. He said, look, I've got something to say about those experts who want to keep their thumb over American energy manufacturing and keep their thumb on the scales and tip it towards our foreign adversaries. These experts have everything to gain from shipping out American manufacturing and energy production. So Vance, he had some things to say about those experts. Another key point I want to get to, January 6th, protecting democracy. This was a great answer. Republicans believe not in censorship. We don't believe in that. We actually believe in something called free speech and debate. And that was something that he really honed in on during the vice presidential debate, JD Vance. It's one of the most important things coming out of the RFK Jr. endorsement as well. Okay, his message in endorsing Donald Trump, the whole reason why RFK Jr. came out to endorse Donald Trump was because Kamala Harris is the candidate of censorship. Mark Zuckerberg came out and said that the Biden-Harris regime told him to censor Americans, even when it came to jokes, memes, about the pandemic or anything else. Hunter Biden laptop story. I'm still getting censored on Facebook. Markey came out and he said he, had regrets, but I don't know if it was really authentic because they're still censoring people on Facebook. Maybe he's just trying to avoid the gulag, right? Censoring speech. But she is the candidate of using big tech to silence Americans. She's that candidate. Okay. She's the candidate who is trying to shut up Americans. And Donald Trump is the candidate of letting us have debate, letting us have free speech. It's the free speech, stupid. Okay. You want to talk about protecting democracy? Let's talk about free speech in this country and who is anti-free speech.
Let's talk about the state of democracy, the top issue for Americans after the economy and inflation. After the 2020 election, President Trump's campaign and others filed 62 lawsuits contesting the results. Judges, including those appointed by President Trump and other Republican presidents, looked at the evidence and said there was no widespread fraud. The governors of every state in the nation, Republicans and Democrats, certified the 2020 election results and sent a legal slate of electors to Congress for January 6th. Senator Vance, you have said you would not have certified the last presidential election and would have asked the states to submit alternative electors. That has been called unconstitutional and illegal. Would you again seek to challenge this year's election results, even if every governor certifies the results? I'll give you 2 minutes.
Well, Nora, first of all, I think that we're focused on the future. We need to figure out how to solve the inflation crisis caused by Kamala Harris's policies, make housing affordable, make groceries affordable, and that's what we're focused on. But I want to answer your question because you did ask it. Look, what President Trump has said is that there were problems in 2020, and my own belief is that we should fight about those issues, debate those issues peacefully in the public square, and that's all I've said, and that's all that Donald Trump has said. Remember, he said that on January the 6th, the protesters ought to protest peacefully. And on January the 20th, what happened? Joe Biden became the president. Donald Trump left the White House. And now, of course, unfortunately, we have all of the negative policies that have come from the Harris-Biden administration. I believe that we actually do have a threat to democracy in this country, but unfortunately, it's not the threat to democracy that Kamala Harris and Tim Walz want to talk about. It is the threat of censorship. It's Americans casting aside lifelong friendships because of disagreements over politics. It's big technology companies silencing their fellow citizens. And it's Kamala Harris saying that rather than debate and persuade her fellow Americans, she'd like to censor people who engage in misinformation. I think that is a much bigger threat to democracy than anything that we've seen in this country in the last 4 years,
a much bigger threat than people in funny hats being let into the Capitol, by the way. The Capitol Police ushered people into the Capitol, and they were taking pictures. They looked like they were tourists. Now, it only got violent when the Capitol Police got violent, and then the Trump supporters responded, or even were trying to run away in the case of Ashley Babbitt.
Last 40 years. Now, I'm really proud, especially given that I was raised by two lifelong blue-collar Democrats, to have the endorsement of Bobby Kennedy Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard, lifelong leaders in the Democratic coalition. And of course, they don't agree with me and Donald Trump on every issue. We don't have to agree on every issue, but we're united behind a basic American First Amendment principle that we ought to debate our differences. We ought to argue about them. We ought to try to persuade our fellow Americans. Kamala Harris is engaged in censorship at an industrial scale. She did it during COVID. She's done it over a number of other issues. And that, to me, is a much bigger threat to democracy than what Donald Trump said when he said that protesters should peacefully protest on January the 6th.
So now let's return our focus to Donald Trump versus Kamala Harris. What is something that Trump needs to do going forward from this vice presidential debate? Not take the bait. They're going to try to get him out there to do another debate. I really don't want to see him do another debate because it's just going, it's not a debate. These people are interested in debate. I've already talked about this segment. They're not interested in free speech, debate, freedom of thought. They're interested in censorship and making Donald Trump look bad. So I'm going to be right back. It's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. What should Donald Trump do next? That's next. Hey, good morning. I so do appreciate you tuning in each and every single morning. Let me know how clear this microphone is. I just want to make sure my sound is coming through all right in the comments section. You guys can go ahead and blast your comments there. Let me know if the sound's sounding okay. All right. Conservative Cat, you can go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube channel. This YouTube channel is brought to you by Patriot Pump. Patriot Pump pre-workout. It's the fruit punch flavor. Love this. You can get it at patriotpumpenergy.com. It's got black pepper extract and it makes your muscles look awesome because there's a little bit of creatine in there as well. Good supplements that keep you focused. And it's not one of those pre-workouts with the artificial dyes or crazy amounts of caffeine, right? You get enough caffeine, but you also have some things in there that will keep your focus and you won't get that crazy crash. All right. When we come back, we're going to talk about what Donald Trump has to do going forward. I think he should continue doing this rallies, but I don't want Trump to take the debate or take the bait to do another debate. Okay. They're going to try to, manipulate Trump into another debate by going after his ego. They're going to say things like, who was it? The CNN moderator was like saying after the debate, he goes, yeah, a friend texted me and they said, man, I wish that these were our two candidates, Tim Walz and JD Vance. They're going to try to chip away at Trump's ego here and get him to do another debate, which is just, no. He should have stuck with it. Actually, he should have just said, you know what, I'm not going to participate in any debates. These people have taken shots at him, attempted to take his life. Okay. Nobody would blame the guy for saying, no, I really don't feel like participating in any kind of discourse with Kamala Harris, especially after they've tried to take my life. Don't believe me? Come on, folks. This isn't even up for debate anymore. Okay. BlackRock, who is a contributor of, Democrat campaigns, a large contributor to Democrat campaigns, BlackRock, Thomas Crooks, that first assassination attempt, the one where the bullet grazed Trump's ear, Thomas Crooks featured in a BlackRock commercial. But what gets even crazier, Austin Private Wealth, Austin Private Wealth, I think is the name of that firm. It's a financial firm. And the majority the majority holder of that company, the person who owns that, or the organization who owns that financial firm, is BlackRock. Okay. Now, what Austin Private Wealth did was short sell a bunch of Trump stock right before he almost died. Okay. These people were looking to gain a lot, or get a lot of money. They had inside information. They knew, obviously, that one of their own probably was going to take shots at the president. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, if that doesn't tell you that the Democrats at least had something to gain by Trump being dead, and BlackRock saw the writing on the wall, they had everything to gain by Trump being dead as well, because Democrats, give them favors, I scratch your back, you scratch my back kind of relationship between BlackRock and Democrats. I think BlackRock was behind that first assassination attempt. Now, obviously, I'm not privy to FBI information or people who are actually investigating this. If they're even investigating it, they might be the ones behind it. Who knows? Or they might have even known. But we definitely need to take a look at the people who were short selling Trump stock, Donald Trump's Truth Social stock, which means you had information that probably, you're when you short sell, you're thinking that stock is going to go down. Okay, so you sell it, and then you get money if that stock goes down. Now, they lost a lot of money because turns out Donald Trump didn't die, and actually his stock went up after he survived the assassination attempt and pumped his fist up in the air. So they lost a lot of money, this Austin Private Wealth Company. Nobody would blame Donald Trump if he said, I really don't feel like debating anybody. I feel like the country is very divided, and I think that a debate with Kamala Harris is just going to further divide the country, because these people are going to make me out to be Hitler. The moderators did that. The ABC moderators made him out to be some sort of Hitler. They fact-checked him. They provided Kamala Harris the questions ahead of time, according to an ABC producer who swore to that in a sworn affidavit, penalty of perjury, if that turns out to be false. So, yeah, there's no reason to debate these people. There really isn't. Good morning, folks. Hey, thanks so much for tuning in. I so do appreciate you being tuned in every single day. Monday through Friday, it's a daily show, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. You can find me on Facebook. You can also find me on YouTube and Rumble. I'm there. Now our focus returns to Donald Trump versus Kamala Harris. Okay, and I was saying, hey, Trump needs to not take the bait. They're going to try to get him out there for another debate, and I just don't want him to do it. I really don't. One, for his own protection. Okay, what if they try to take his life again. Okay, I think that he needs to stick to the rallies and stick to getting out the vote for the next month. Okay, this was such a dominant performance by JD Vance. It should be the end of debate season. And, you know, this should be the last mainstream media appearance for Trump Vance. Okay, this last debate, because it was just so dominant, and it was such a great performance by JD Vance that we just need to end on a high note. And what I think is going to wind up happening is they're going to try to manipulate Trump into another debate. They'll claim he's scared of Kamala Harris. You're going to hear that a lot over the next coming weeks, that he won't debate Kamala Harris because he's scared of her. They'll claim he's not debating or talking to the press because he's scared of Kamala Harris. And, you know, that bothers me so much, because we know Kamala Harris refuses to go out in front of the press. She refuses to go out in front of the press, do interviews that are live and in real time. And here's what I think they're going to try to do. They're going to try to also say that JD Vance would be a better candidate than Donald Trump, which, you know, I think JD Vance is going to be great in 2028. However, you know, I still don't trust JD Vance. I do trust Donald Trump, and since that we already had him for 4 years, we know what he is capable of as president. No new wars and a great economy. Okay, we know he's capable of that. I'm not too sure where JD Vance is. I haven't seen what he's done, but I think he'll make a great candidate in 2028 under the tutelage of Donald Trump in 2024. So they're going to try to chip away at Trump's ego by saying JD Vance would be a better candidate. That's one downfall of Donald Trump, is that he does have an ego, and he can easily, that ego can easily be chipped away at, and he might just say, you know what, I'm going to do another debate, and I really hope he doesn't do that. Now, I was watching after the debate, the CNN commentators, and they had said something like, man, I really wish the candidates of choice this election were Tim Walz and JD Vance. And they're already starting it. See, they're already trying to go after Trump, saying that he's not a good candidate and that JD Vance is the better candidate. Thankfully, only someone as smart and handsome as Donald Trump would have the courage to see through all of this. So I hope he doesn't take the bait to get out there. JD Vance, he really did destroy Tim Walz and the moderators during that debate. And that's another thing that we can't just, you know, overlook, the fact that JD Vance took on 3 of them. He took on the two moderators, and then he also took on Walz, and he did a great job. So it's nothing but, you know, 30-ish days of rallies, collecting votes, and getting out the vote. Speaking of getting out the vote, this Sunday, I am going to be out at the Davis Lodge. I really want you to come. I want you to come, even just say hi if you don't have any questions. But I'm going to be out there at the Davis Lodge in Hudson at about 4 o'clock. And I'll be speaking at that event. There's a lakeside setting. It's beautiful out there. There's going to be barbecue and a bounce house for the kids. It's just really a time for, you know, some fellowship and to get out the vote and to talk about your ballot, to talk about what kind of questions are on there, because there are 3 referenda on your ballot, and they're statewide referenda that are on your ballot. And if you have questions about the candidates, there's going to be candidates at the lakeside setting there at the Davis Lodge. It's beautiful. So head on out this Sunday, October 6th at about 4 p.m. I'll be there along with Scott Robbins. Scott Robbins will also be joining me at the lodge. And we will take your questions, interact with you. It's a time to get together and hang out. So Scott Robbins from Markley, Van Camp and Robbins, who you can catch at 8 o'clock tonight. He is a national radio personality, and he does very good on that show. He's hilarious and a great friend of mine. So come out and see Scott and I on October 6th at 4 o'clock. I'll be right back. I do want to get to a few things today. This resurfaced video actually shows Tim Walz bragging about overwhelming America's smallest towns, America's schools, with third world migrants. Okay, he brags about it. He says that, 50 languages spoken at a school is beautiful diversity. No, that sounds like chaos to me. I don't even know if Tim Walz could actually name 50 different languages, but we've got the resurfaced video right here, Cities 92.9. That's next. Woo! Hey, good morning. It's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. Yes, this resurfaced video shows Tim Walz actually bragging about overwhelming America's smallest towns or schools with third world migrants. Yes, he's bragging about the third world migrants actually coming here and overwhelming everybody. He claims that 50 languages spoken in school is actually just what's called beautiful diversity. Here's the resurfaced clip.
Other state. That's not just morally a good thing. It's our economic and cultural future. This beautiful diversity we see out in Worthington when I'm there, you see 50 languages spoken in the school. We have more refugees per capita than any other state.
Okay, he's bragging about that. I mean, call me crazy, but I don't know. How would public schools deal with 50 different languages? How is that good for anybody? Okay. I don't even know if Tim Walz can name 50 languages. How is that going to get us to educational excellence? 50 different languages. It's going to be impossible for public schools to handle that kind of stuff. So there he is bragging about overwhelming America's smallest towns with third world migrants. And he says that, this is beautiful diversity. Beautiful diversity. This is not good for the nation's kids. Okay, for Americans, for American children. Back in my day, there was maybe a couple of kids who couldn't speak fluent English, and that actually took a lot of resources to get them up to speed and to get them to where they needed to be. Okay, it takes a lot of resources. So just imagine how these failing schools would handle 50 languages. They wouldn't be able to. Okay. I do have to take a quick break, but we're going to come right back. It's Conservative Cat, Cities 92.9 at the top of the hour. I got more news about this helicopter pilot who was threatened to be arrested after he was trying to save victims of Hurricane Helene. That's next. Good morning. Hey, thanks so much for tuning in. We're going to be right back talking about this resurfaced video of Tim Walz. Woo! Hey, good morning. It's Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. I wanted to jump right in and talk about Tim Walz in this resurfaced video. Real quick, I'm going to play it one more time. Here we go.
We have more refugees per capita than any other state. That's not just morally a good thing. It's our economic and cultural future. This beautiful diversity we see out in Worthington when I'm there, you see 50 languages spoken in the school. We have more refugees.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Okay, there he is. He's bragging about beautiful diversity. I don't know, call me crazy, but I don't think it's possible for public schools to handle 50 different languages. Okay, how is that good for anybody? The kids speaking the different languages or Americans in the public school system. Okay, is this how they think that they're going to get to some sort of educational excellence? Because newsflash, nope, that's not going to happen. Because back in my day, maybe 1, 2, 3 kids, they couldn't speak fluent English, and it took a lot of resources to try to keep them up to speed and get them up to speed. And imagine how these failing schools, and we know they're failing, check out their reading scores, check out the math scores. Imagine how these failing schools are going to be able to handle this. They won't be able to, okay? You don't need to imagine, because we can access their reading scores and math scores, and, you know, schools that don't have 50 different languages in them. 50 different languages. Can Tim Walz honestly even name 50 languages? I don't think so. The fact that he brags that they have more refugees per capita than any other state is proof that this guy is a radical, okay? And he is the embodiment of what Kamala intends to do. She picked him because of this, not despite of it, okay? So she knows he's a radical. She knows that he would get out there and brag about more refugees per capita. And, you know, this campaign, the Harris Walz campaign, they're trying to convince the masses right now that more migrants per capita is actually Trump's fault. They're trying to say that the border crisis is actually Trump's fault, and they're trying to shy away from CBS. They fact-checked JD Vance. By the way, they published a fact check on JD Vance after the debate and said that Kamala Harris wasn't appointed to be the border czar. CBS themselves, there's supercuts out there of them for years calling Kamala Harris the border czar, that she was appointed as the border czar. Now they're trying to shy away from the fact that she was even in charge of the border, okay? And this campaign, like I said, they're trying to convince you that Trump is to blame for migrants. I think it's like 18 million migrants since the Biden came in, under the Biden-Harris administration, 18 million, and then it's like 3 million under Donald Trump came in. So, yeah, this proves that Walz, he could care less about America and this nation's children, American children. He could care less about economic prosperity for Americans, so long as there's what he calls beautiful diversity. And I guess that's 50 different languages. And question, what makes beautiful diversity? If it's such a good thing, why do they have to force it on the masses? Why do you have to force this on the masses? The beautiful diversity. Nobody really likes it. And nobody likes having their kids be confused because you're draining the school's resources to get kids up to speed who don't speak fluent English. Okay. So why do they have to force this on the masses? Illegal immigration. Nobody likes illegal immigration. This isn't even an issue. They're trying to force illegal immigration on people and make them like it. By diversity, he means anyone who's not American, which means they favor foreign nationals over citizens. They've made you a second-class citizen. Not only is that evil, but it's a direct violation of this guy's oath. And he wants to destroy your town with foreign nationals who hate you. And, you know, if you want that, you know what to do. Go vote Tim Walz then. You know, if you want your community destroyed and your resources depleted by people who aren't even citizens, then go ahead, go out and vote for him. If you don't want that, then you also know what to do. So I do want to get to this story. This is an explosive story. It's one that I was reading through this morning, and it just breaks my heart. It turns out the government, when they refuse to do their job in a natural disaster, victims are just supposed to suffer it out, okay? Because citizens helping flood-stranded victims is a big no-no. They say, nope, 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 you cannot do that. You cannot go out and help victims. I know that we're not doing our job, but we don't want you to help people, although that's our job to do just that. So according to the New York Post, what am I talking about? A South Carolina pilot. He flew stranded Hurricane Helene victims in flood-ravaged North Carolina to safety. And he says now that he was threatened with arrest. They were going to arrest him. The government was going to arrest him if he continued his rescue mission. So he has a helicopter, he's a pilot, and he's been saving people. His name is Jordan Sidham. And he's been flying victims out of devastation over the weekend when local leaders told him there was a flight restriction on the area and that they would have to arrest him if he continued making flights and rescue missions. Okay, so they want to arrest him for rescuing people. So, quote, this is from Jordan. He says, there were other victims as we were flying, leaving the area. We spotted 300, 400 yards of their location. People were waving. And for myself and my son, we were leaving out of the helicopter, and then 300 to 400 yards from our location, we could see people waving us down, begging us to come help them. Now, this guy, he's a firefighter. He also a fireman, and he is in charge of, or was once in charge of, the Chesterfield County Sheriff's Office Narcotics Unit. Okay, so this is not some rookie pilot who's just gotten a helicopter and he's flying it around saving people. This guy actually has first responders experience. And, it's disgusting that they won't let this guy continue his rescue missions and that they're threatening to arrest him for rescuing people. So a father and son, they're in this helicopter, and they're both volunteer firefighters, by the way, and they flew 4 victims to safety on Saturday. So over the weekend, they had 2 women stranded on top of a mountain, and then 2 vacationers who were trapped inside of an Airbnb. They took their helicopter, got into their helicopter, and they flew them out of there. Now, there's trees everywhere. They're stranded. Okay, you need a chainsaw to get out. There's trees over the roads. If the roads weren't taken from the mudslides, the landslides, they were quite literally the roads were taken out. But what roads are left? There's just trees everywhere, and you need a chainsaw to get out. So people are trapped inside their homes quite literally, and this guy's out there saving them. So a father-son, they went back out on Sunday after saving these 4 people on Saturday. And they went back out on Sunday. They found a husband and a wife who waved them down from their partially washed away home. So they're in a home. They waved them down up on the roof, right? And they were like, please save us, the husband and the wife. Now, the aircraft was too small, so he had to go leave his son behind while he saved the wife. Okay. So before completing the rescue mission, he was informed that he would be arrested if he went out and saved the husband. So he only got the wife. He was going to go back for the husband, and then he had to go back for his son, obviously, but they weren't going to allow him to complete this rescue mission. So they said it was okay for him to go pick up the son, but he would have had to leave the husband behind. Okay, so subsequently, he was forced to tell the husband, who is now alone, I guess, that he would have to wait for a rescue that might never come for reasons that don't make sense. So he had to go back. He left his son. He carried the wife out of there. Then he was going to make another trip, carry his son out of there. Then he was going to make another trip, carry the husband out of there. They weren't going to let him save the husband. So Jordan's plans to return for the other victim and his son were squashed by an unnamed Lake Lure fire official. Now, I've been to Lake Lure. It's beautiful. It used to be anyway. Now it's completely destroyed from this hurricane. But his plans to return for the other victim, like I said, the husband and his son were squashed by an unnamed Lake Lure fire official who allegedly threatened to have him arrested if he continued picking up stranded victims. So by the time the restriction was lifted on Monday, Jordan reloaded his helicopter with food and a bottle of water and flew back to Lake Lure with his Carolina Emergency Response Team, a volunteer group of dispatched pilots where people needed to be rescued. Okay, so he went back on Monday. He was told he couldn't do it on Sunday, and then he went back on Monday with this dispatch once the air opened up. So while he's doing everything he needs to do to help those in need, Jordan says that he believes the Lake Lure fire officials' decision to stop him from picking up victims on Sundays actually put lives in jeopardy. Okay, so he was doing everything he could to help people. This Lake Lure fire official, these government officials, they put people's lives in jeopardy. So the types of crimes that government they selectively go after and they prioritize is just ridiculous to me. I don't understand how they say, oh, this is a crime that we really have to police here. And, the officials who prevented him from saving lives, they're really just a disgrace. What gives them the right to close the air like that, by the way, when people are stranded and desperate for help? Why would they close the air? It doesn't make any sense to me. They should be fired immediately, these officials. Because they were, and I get it, they were probably following orders, but following orders, does that really justify not saving lives? I mean, I don't know what's wrong with you, okay? I don't know what's wrong with people who are just like, yeah, I've got to follow orders for closing the skies, and I'm going to arrest you if you go save people. What? So, like I said, I think that this story, what this really should tell you is that the government hates you. There's no other point I really need to make, is that the government hates you and they're willing to put people's lives in jeopardy to follow rules that don't make any sense. So really tragic, but good for this guy who went out there and was trying to, help people. The government should be doing that, but they're not. All right, so America doesn't need another TikTok performer, according to Donald Trump. He's slamming Kamala Harris in this new ad, which is absolutely beautiful, this ad, and he calls her too weak for America, which is it's so true. She is too weak for America, and she is a TikTok performer. She just is so inauthentic, and it's all political theater, right? So with the Hurricane Helene victims, it made me lose my mind. I saw this photo. She took a photograph, and she had her, earbuds or whatever, her earphones in, and they weren't even plugged into her phone. Okay. And they made the picture look like she was working hard for the hurricane victims. And, it was clearly staged. This woman is a performer. She's an actress. She's not what America needs, especially when there's Hamas terrorists, okay, that you have to deal with, and foreign adversaries like Vladimir Putin. You think that Kamala Harris, the TikTok performer, is going to be able to do that? No, she's not going to be able to tell Hamas, stop invading, stop hurting Iran, or stop hurting Israel. Iran, stop hurting Israel. She's not going to be able to stop these people. She's too weak. All right, I do have to take a quick break, but you're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. Be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel and find me on Rumble. Hey, good morning. Thanks so much for tuning in, and be sure to smash that like button. Yes, when we come back, we're going to be talking about Kamala Harris and how she is quite literally just an actress. And Donald Trump nails it in this ad. He released an ad reminding the masses that the world was much safer without Kamala Harris. Before the Kamala Biden regime took office, we were much safer. No new wars. And, Democrats are pretending that, Trump and Putin are buddy-buddy, right? Democrats, the left, the media, they say that Trump and Putin are buddy-buddy. And actually, they're the ones who are funding a war that Ukraine is losing. And, they're the ones who seem like they're buddy-buddy with Putin because they're allowing Putin to invade under their watch. Okay, so not the former administration. Putin invaded under their watch. Seems like they're buddies with Putin because Putin is winning. Okay, so the fact that we've been going on, wars have been going on for the past, 16 years, as recently as I can remember. They've been going on my entire life. Now, the only administration who had no new wars was Donald Trump. Okay, the fact that we have had wars for the past 12 to 16 years is extremely telling. Because the only time the world was close to peace was when Donald Trump was in office and Democrats were not in office. And Democrats and even George Bush and all of these rhinos, this is a populist president. I would say the last president who got shot, by the way, JFK, he was a populist president who would not be goaded into war. He was anti-war, and they killed him for it. Okay, so similar to that of what's going on today, Donald Trump was attempted to be killed. He almost got killed. And I don't think it's a coincidence that he and JFK both were populist presidents who would not be goaded into war. And Kamala Harris, she struggles with basic sentences. She breaks out into weird, awkward laughter, cackling laugh when she's confronted with any kind of question. And I don't think that she's going to be able to negotiate with Hamas. I don't think that she's going to be able to negotiate with Russia. This woman has proved time and time again that she has trouble even looking at people without breaking into laughter. She has trouble with the press, as she does not do live interviews. I mean, objectively, this woman does not do well with the press. We know that she doesn't do live interviews. We know that she doesn't talk off the cuff. We know that she only does pre-recorded taped interviews and edited interviews, okay, with friendly fire. Okay, she's never gone on Fox News, okay? So she only goes on the mainstream media outlets, the ABCs, the CNNs, the MSNBCs, and she does pre-taped interviews. So we know that she's not good with the press. If you're not good with the press, how are you going to be any kind of match against hostile leaders? Okay, you're incompetent and you can't lead America and you're weak. So this ad that I'm going to play here in just a moment really exposes how weak Kamala Harris is. I do want to talk about this MSNBC woman. Her name is Nicole Wallace. She like quite literally had a meltdown over JD Vance, Vance's debate performance. This dingbat, Nicole Wallace, she claims that JD Vance's worst moment was when he was mansplaining to the moderators, which these two women, they're pathetic moderators. They're not journalists. They tried to fact check JD Vance, and it wasn't even a fact check. He fact checked them and talked about how, illegal immigration has essentially been codified into law, where Kamala Harris, with a phone app, like quite literally a phone app, people download, illegal immigrants download, and then they swipe, hey, I'm seeking asylum. Hey, I'm trying to get temporary protected status under the parole thing. That's not going through the legal process of becoming a citizen. That's not going through the legal process of getting a green card, a visa, whatever. That's not typically how we do things for legalizing you as a citizen. What she did was essentially have illegal immigrants install a phone app and like check in. Hey, I'm here. That's not any kind of vetting. There's no vetting taking place. And he explains that. The MSNBC Nicole Wallace was like losing her marbles over it. Hey, good morning. Find me on YouTube, find me on Facebook, find me on Rumble. We will be getting to the MSNBC dingbat who says that JD Vance's worst moment of the debate was when he was mansplaining to the moderators. These two women, they're pathetic. They're not journalists. Okay. These two women, they had no business really pretending to moderate the debate. Really what they were doing when they were ganging up on JD Vance, much like the ABC debate between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. The ABC moderators ganged up on Donald Trump. And in that debate, we know that the ABC producer swore in an affidavit that they gave Kamala Harris the questions ahead of time. Okay, so they have no business really pretending to moderate this vice presidential debate on national TV because that's not what they were doing. They were just ganging up on JD Vance. So this MSNBC host tried to paint JD Vance as a mansplainer, which is just hilarious. But I want to get to this clip here. It's an ad Donald Trump released. So he says, look, if you want to be a TikTok performer in the White House, go ahead, vote blue no matter who it is. OK, if you want a TikTok performer in the White House, what you're going to have to do is vote blue. Okay, but if you want someone to actually lead this country into prosperity, you know what to do. Don't vote the TikTok performer in. Okay, she is a TikTok performer. She's a actress. Okay, Kamala Harris is an actress. And in this ad, Donald Trump is reminding the masses that the world was much safer, much more at peace before Kamala and Joe Biden got in there. So let's take a listen to this. Here we go.
Like us, China also saw their weakness. So did Putin. Then he invaded Ukraine. Hamas saw Harris' anti-Israel statements and will use it as a green light to keep murdering Israelis. And Iran thinks Harris is so incompetent. New intel shows they're trying to help Harris win the election. America doesn't need another TikTok performer. We need the strength that will protect us.
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
That's such a good ad. It's so good. All right. So it's kind of incredible. You've got the Democrats and the media. They constantly say that Donald Trump is buddy-buddy with Putin, which doesn't make any sense because Putin invaded under the Democrats' watch, and they are funding a war that they're not winning. So the only person who's really gaining anything here is Putin, and the people allowing him to gain something, which is Ukraine's land, is the Democrat administration. One would think that they're actually the buddies with Putin, right? One could conclude that they're actually pals with Vladimir Putin because he's gaining land, Ukraine's land, under their watch. So I also want to point out that, for the 12, 16 years, now I'm only 25. I think we've been in war since I've been alive, essentially. Now, the only time we were close to any kind of peace was when Donald Trump was in office. Okay. And that's extremely telling. We were close to some sort of peace, no new wars. Okay. Under Donald Trump, which hasn't happened for the past 12 to 16 years. So what makes this ad very accurate and more accurate is that Kamala Harris, she actually struggles to put together basic sentences. Now, if you ever talk to like performers or actresses, they are kind of dumb, okay, because they are so focused on the lines, memorizing their lines, that they're not, they have no original thought. So they're kind of dumb. Also, we can see Kamala Harris every time she's confronted cackle awkwardly and laugh. And somebody like that can't negotiate with Hamas. They can't negotiate with hostile leaders like Putin. Okay. The fact that she has trouble looking at the press. We know that she has trouble with the press. How do I know this? Because she's never done live interviews. She's never done interviews on Fox News. She's only done interviews with her buddy Tim or interviews by herself. She finally did a solo interview, but they're edited. Okay, so they're pre-recorded, edited interviews. So the fact that she's got problems with the press means that she's no match for these hostile leaders. And, she's incompetent. She's incompetent. And, if you want someone who's incompetent and you want an actress and you want a TikTok performer, go ahead, vote blue. Vote blue if you want more of the same of what we've got going on with the wars. I think it's impossible to name anything that Kamala Harris has done for anybody. Now, she has helped foreign nationals at your expense, of course, and she's going to pretend that she's going to put more money in your pocket, but her actions say something else. Okay, her actions prove that she's just going to take your money, send it overseas to people you will never meet. You're never going to meet these people, and places you're never going to go. Most likely, you're never going to go to Ukraine. Okay, so she's going to take $152 billion. That's how much we've earmarked for Ukraine, and she's going to send it over there. And look, as long as you're a law-abiding citizen, the last thing you need to do or should do is vote for more of the same. If you're a law-abiding citizen, you don't want to vote for these people. Okay, now if you're a criminal, maybe you gain to benefit, or you will benefit under a Kamala Harris regime. But me, the law-abiding citizen who will never go to Ukraine, never even see those people, I won't benefit. And I understand America is supposed to be the country that everybody goes to for help, and we can take pride in that. Yeah, sure. But when we can't help our own citizens, that's a problem. $700 for the families affected by Hurricane Helene, $700 for the families affected by Maui, the Maui fires, East Palestine, Ohio. They didn't even get anything. They didn't even get federal funding at all, I'm pretty sure. Maybe like a little bit, but not barely any federal funding for East Palestine, Ohio, that train derailment where all the chemicals leaked out and people were talking like this and their throats were quite literally burned on the inside in East Palestine, Ohio. Trump responded to that, by the way. He responded to that disaster. But Maui was the fault of the government, and they only gave him $700. When you break down the numbers, $2,500 per Ukrainian citizen. Now, with the Hurricane Helene victims, it's $700 per household, $700 per household for the Maui victims. And it's just unfair. It's just not right. Why are we coming in second? It should be America first. And Kamala Harris is de facto president, and the world is nowhere near peaceful as it was 4 years ago. And the fact that they claim Trump is going to lead us into World War III is just disingenuous. It's a total lie. You know it is, because reality doesn't match up with what they're saying. Okay, you see something, but they say something. Okay, they're saying something different from what you're actually seeing play out. All right, I do want to get to MSNBC, this dingbat, Nicole Wallace. She says that JD Vance fact-checking the lying moderators was actually mansplaining. Look, these two women, they have no business moderating this debate if they couldn't listen to JD Vance without getting offended, explain how they were wrong. Okay, so they were wrong, and he was just explaining that. That's not mansplaining. That's just simply explaining how you're wrong. Okay, so I'm gonna come back. We're gonna play that clip from MSNBC. They lost it on live television, by the way, after the debate. She was losing her mind, cursing. Nicole Wallace was. I'll be right back. Woohoo! Hey, go ahead and text me at 309-451-9299. A few of your texts, I like this one. JD Vance is 2028. If we have a 2028, exactly. Like I said, I'm still nervous about JD Vance. They're going to try to get Trump to get out there and do a debate, and I really hope he doesn't take the bait. They're going to try to play on his ego, and Trump, he loves his ego, right? He's kind of an ego guy, which most men are. Sorry, men, but men and their egos. They're going to try to chip away at his ego. They're going to try to get him to do another debate. But I really hope he doesn't, because there's no purpose. There's really no purpose to do another debate, because they're just going to gang up on him and they're going to try to make him look bad. And I think that we should end on a high note. JD Vance's performance was great. I can't trust JD Vance because there's no record. I like JD Vance. I like what he says. I think he's talks great, but there's no policy that he's actually, I mean, he has a record in the U.S. Senate, but Donald Trump was in office for 4 years. We know what he's capable of. We know that he's capable of no new wars and a great economy. So, yeah, JD Vance, definitely 2028. The media is going to try to say that JD Vance should be the candidate. And that's going to chip away at the ego of Donald Trump. And they're going to try to bait him into doing another debate. And I hope he doesn't fall for it. I don't think he will. He's a smart guy and he's got smart people around him. And I don't think that he will go out there and debate, because there's really no point. There's no point in doing all of that. All right, I do want to talk about this MSNBC dingbat. Okay, so her name is Nicole Wallace, and she says that JD Vance fact-checking the lying moderators was actually mansplaining. Okay, so it's not mansplaining. Okay, is it mansplaining if two women are pathetic enough where they can't listen to a man explain something, especially, they've got no business pretending they're moderators. Okay, they ganged up on JD Vance and they tried to fact check him over this whole legal status thing of these immigrants, and he fact checked them on, they tried to say that, oh, they are legal citizens. They're not legal citizens. Kamala Harris's phone app to check in if you're an illegal alien is not going through the legal process, the legal channels, and being vetted. Okay, so JD Vance was fact-checking the moderators. Let's take a listen to this MSNBC. Her name's Nicole Wallace. She's a host.
Muting powers. And I actually think if you're a woman, that might be the worst moment JD Vance had, because he was going to mansplain right over that mute button. He was, and again, I don't pretend to know how everyone will react to this. I think that a lot of women in positions of authority that should command respect just by virtue of that dynamic will see themselves in some dude that disrespected them and talked over. I mean, there was a moment like that with the vice presidential in the Harris-Pence debate where she's muting power.
Okay, despite CBS announcing that they would not do live fact-checking during the debate, moderator Margaret Brennan interjected to correct Vance after he suggested that illegal immigrants were overwhelming the city of Ohio, Springfield, Ohio, and that they were eating up all of the resources, okay, the illegal aliens in Ohio, the Haitian illegal immigrants. Okay, so she said, quote, just to clarify for our viewers, Springfield, Ohio does have a large number of Haitian migrants who have a legal status, temporary protected status. That's what Margaret Brennan said, and she clarified, right? So she interjected, although CBS had announced that they weren't going to do the fact-checking thing, she did it anyway, and the moderators weren't following their own rules, okay? So they couldn't be bothered to follow their own rules, and that's why Vance pushed back and he fact-checked Margaret Brennan, the co-moderator of Norah O'Donnell. So he started talking over her, and she started talking over him, okay, and she kept insisting that they move on to the next question. And Vance says, quote, the rules were that you guys weren't going to fact-check. He goes, since you're fact-checking me, I think it's important to say what's actually going on. Okay, so while explaining the process of obtaining a legal status and tying it to the Harris-backed immigration policies, the moderators again spoke over Vance, thanking him for describing the legal process. Okay, so he interjected and explained how the Harris-backed immigration policy actually works and what it is. It's a phone app, and illegal immigrants essentially check in and let the ICE and the feds know that they're there, but there is no vetting taking place. They're not legal citizens, okay? And you can't claim that they have a legal status just because they check a box on a phone, right? You have to go through a vetting process, like the people who have green cards and work visas, things like that. So the fact that, this was about Springfield is even more telling, because this coverage of Springfield, Ohio has been just deranged, fictitious. They talk about the bomb threats that came after JD Vance's eating cats and dogs comment. And that was all the bomb threats. They were all from foreign. They weren't credible. They were all hoaxes. The governor had said that they were all hoaxes, 30 plus hoaxes. And they were fictitious bomb threats that came from foreign entities. Okay, so they were placing phone calls. So it wasn't even Americans, okay, who were making these fake phone calls. So the difference between Vance and the moderators is that he respects the American people enough to tell them the truth and inform them, and the media could care less about the truth. And they mock voters into oblivion. They mock their intelligence. To claim that these people have legal status is just fictitious. It's wrong. And, she appears to believe women are so vulnerable that men can't correct the record when they're blatantly lying to the American people. Okay, so she's the misogynistic one in the sense that she thinks that women are so vulnerable that they'll crumble if men correct them. Okay, so she's actually misogynistic in the sense that she doesn't believe that these two women moderators can handle their own. Okay. And I don't really know if this is considered mansplaining. I don't think that this is considered mansplaining according to the internet. The definition of this made up word really is the explanation of something by a man, typically to a woman, in a manner regarded as condescending or patronizing. So did he explain something as a man? Yes. Did he explain it to a woman? Yes, whatever that means. I mean, we don't even know what a woman is anymore in this country. But yes, it was a man explaining something to a woman. Did he do it in a patronizing way? No. MSNBC did that in a patronizing way when she said, actually, to correct the record, and CBS announced prior to the debate that they weren't going to do that, and they weren't following their own rules, and she was the condescending one to JD Vance when explaining the legal status of these Haitian immigrants. They're not legal citizens. They don't have temporary protected status. The Kamala Harris Biden regime, what they've done is they've got free phones for all of these illegals, and then on their phone they get check a box, hey, I'm seeking asylum. I mean, that's not a legal process. That there's no vetting taking place there, so that's not a legal status. It's very different from what people are doing. It's a 10-year process to get a green card, right? So that's mansplaining. Come on. The real problem here is that reporters are intentionally misleading the American public. Okay, they're misleading, and that's disgusting. And they obviously have a clear agenda. And, then they start to cry victim when that's pointed out. When it's pointed out that they're lying to the American public, then they start to cry victim, and they start to say, oh, JD Vance is just a misogynist. How could he dare mansplain to me? That's where they go when, their agenda doesn't work. Okay. So the left is really upset about Vance, being a man who tells the truth. That's really what it is. He's willing to tell the truth to voters, which is something the moderators and the media is not interested in. And the point of the debate was not to inform people. It was to mislead for the moderators. They didn't want to inform the people. Otherwise, they would have let JD Vance speak and not talk over him and then mute his mic. It's clear that the point of the debate for the moderators was to mislead people and then to cry later on and say, oh, he's misogynistic and he was mansplaining. Look, I mean, but we should just expect this from MSNBC. I do have to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to wrap this story up. Plus, I might be able to get to Hurricane Helene. There was a North Carolina woman who, went off on the Biden-Harris administration and their response. And she's saying that FEMA wasn't on the ground. They haven't even done a formal press conference for 4 days. Finally, Kamala Harris did one, and she said that they're going to give them $700, which is just abysmal, considering that we gave $2,500 per citizen in Ukraine. When you break down the numbers, $152 billion earmarked for Ukraine. I'll be right back. It's Conservative Cat. Mansplaining. I know. That's so ridiculous. Was he a man? Yes. Was he explaining something to the moderators? Yes. Did he do it in a condescending way? No. But I think he was frustrated, right? It's a made-up term anyway, mansplaining. It's just when men explain things to women. I mean, that's not, we don't need a definition for that. That's just men explaining things to women. Okay. There's no word for women explaining things to men in a condescending way, which is actually what happened here. So yeah, it's just absolutely ridiculous. We do local things, Josh. Just today I didn't have a whole lot of local. Tomorrow I'll probably have some more local stories. We did talk about the 3 referenda a little bit this morning that are going to appear on your Illinois ballot. Those 3 referendum on your Illinois ballot actually were a part of a omnibus election bill that was passed out of the legislature this past spring, and that same omnibus election bill had a ban on slating candidates for the state house and the state senate, which the Illinois Supreme Court actually said, hey, you can't do that. We're going to allow these slated candidates to remain on the ballot. So there was part of that bill that was deemed unconstitutional, or it was deemed, wrong by our Illinois Supreme Court. So the fact that these 3 referenda are actually on the ballot in Illinois kind of sucks, because it was part of a crappy omnibus election bill that they passed at the last moment. They gutted a bill and then they replaced it with this election, changes to the election law and during an election year, which is just shady. But the 3 questions, one being about election workers being intimidated. Should candidates be held civilly liable for that? Ridiculous. If you're threatening election workers, there's already rules on the books that will hold you accountable for that kind of behavior. Why would you have to be held civilly liable as well? Unless they want to go after candidates for, asking for recounts or something like that. Number 2, I would say the referendum is just Governor J.B. Pritzker's fair tax that he's tried to get passed several times, where they're going to increase taxes on the wealthy, right? I think it's a 3% increase on people who make $1 million or something like that. Effectively, that's going to be a tax on everybody, because those people who are the millionaires make millions. They're going to pass that on to the consumer. Likely those are private industry sector folks that they're taxing, right? And they're going to tax them, and they're going to have to pass their cost on to the consumer. It happens every time. It's the way it works. Okay, that's the way the economy works. You're going to be paying more because they've decided to tax people extra. And that's not really fair, right? Rich, poor, it doesn't matter who you are. You should pay the same taxes. Okay. In the Bible, that talks about tithing. God doesn't ask for any more than 10%. He doesn't ask any more from the wealthy people. He doesn't ask any more from the rich people. He says 10%. 10% is your tithe. And why the government thinks that they can take more from people who do well doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So vote no on that one. Number 3 would be the IVF. They want to mandate healthcare providers to provide this sort of thing. IVF, like I said, there's flaws, problems with it where they are taking babies, discarding them, and then selling them off for science, donating all the science, and they're manipulating women into creating all of these embryos, and they're abusing the treatment process. People who are in that industry, I wouldn't say all, but some are definitely abusing that, and pro-lifers are against that, obviously. So if you're pro-life, vote no for that reason, but also IVF treatments paid for by taxpayer dollars, not something I'm interested in. If you want fertility treatments, pay for it yourself, right? So vote no on that one. Free referenda. Hey, good morning. I so do appreciate you tuning in each and every single morning. Yes, before we took the break, I was telling you about MSNBC. They said that it was mansplaining when JD Vance interrupted them and said, hey, no, I actually have to tell the American people the truth. I have to tell the voters the truth about what's going on here. They're not obtaining a legal status. Kamala Harris gave them a phone app to check in and say, hey, yes, I am seeking asylum in Ohio. That's not a legal process to obtain legal status. Okay, that's not a temporary status. That's not legal status. That's you checking a box on a phone app. There's people in this country who work very hard for citizenship and work very hard to become legal citizens of this country. It takes 10 plus years to get your green card. It takes a lot of time and effort to become a citizen of this country. And it's kind of unfair to those people to call these people who check a box on a phone app legal citizens. They're not legal citizens. They don't have temporary protected status. They've basically, what the Kamala Harris administration has done, because I say Kamala Harris administration because we know Joe Biden ain't run things, right? But what they've done is they've enshrined into law illegal immigration, and they've made it legal, if that makes sense. And they've subverted the legal process. And they've circumvented that process and belittled it. All right, I do have to leave, but we're going to do it all over again tomorrow morning. Conservative Cat, it's a daily show from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. We'll talk more about the hurricane victims. Pray for those people because there's a lot of people there that still don't have power. Continue to pray that this administration gets their act together and actually responds to that situation in the Southeast and in the mountain areas, North Carolina and Tennessee. Bye-bye. I love you. Have a blessed day. And as always, find me on Facebook, YouTube, and Rumble. Subscribe to the channel. We'll be back at it tomorrow.